And it makes total sense to me that you have to try to be somebody or they won't listen to you. You try to please them so they'll like you. And all those things go on, right, interpersonally. But beneath all of those things, there is like a transcendental fact of us that's outside of all the social complexity. There's something going on here. You really are, right? You really are, and I really am. And that says something about us sitting here facing each other. It tells me something that, and playing a game with you or hiding behind something doesn't honor the deepest reality of our existence somehow. It doesn't seem to honor the truth of the fact that you can experience, that you do experience, and that you're here and that you're open for contact, and that you want your life to be fulfilled in some way. It seems like if I was to honor that, I'd have to be here for you in a way that was like acknowledging your divine nature. That's what I think of as a kind of a divine nature, that the deepest part of another is this divine nature. And I should recognize that. I should be in relationship to that aspect of you as opposed to a personality flaw or a tendency to hide or any of those things that I might have with another, right?
That's so empowering. Just being here in your presence as you speak about that, I feel more empowered and relaxed just to be myself.
Yeah.
And to be open to an interaction, and it's helping me learn so much at the same time.
It's like if you have a relationship with somebody who isn't in touch with any of that, about that divine nature of the individual, do you go join them sort of where they're at? I'm not asking you personally about that, but one tends to want to have that contact with another, and they'll kind of do anything to be with another. So they will join that other's reality. Reality is a way of being together. And so they will kind of duplicate or share the same reality as an attempt to be with them, because that feels more with them than denying their reality.
But they're not really with them, are they?
It's not as fully satisfying as, I mean, sometimes you feel separate if you don't share the same views about things. In fact, one way to improve the connection is to find out what you already agree upon and what you already feel comfortable with. Yeah, I agree with that. And people will do that when they're getting to know each other. They'll try to find what area they agree on. If they don't agree, then that feels separate, right? And so they don't share the same reality, and so they feel separate. And so there's this tendency to want to go into these ideas and these views that are the same as the other person. And so if you have a deep self-enlightenment, you can do that without losing touch with the truth of yourself. But if you don't, if you're identified with all that material, if you think you are that material, that reality, then you're kind of lost in it. They call it wandering in samsara, wandering in the illusion. And you're in relationship, and the relationship, instead of being like divine being to divine being, and then the openness of heart and everything, it becomes,
a power struggle?
Power struggles. The whole variety, with no limits. Just everything that's going on with us is like this wandering in this samsara. And so there's this thing about having an enlightenment experience, which is that like at the core of everything, there's this sense of you, who you really are. And when you realize that, when you get it solid, when you become familiar with it and you can reside in it, then you can be in relationship with other people without losing yourself in that stuff so much. A little bit maybe, but I haven't gotten 100% on it, but I have access to that something a little bit. I think it's a little bit. I'm not proud of it. I think it's just some, you know, and I can articulate it a little bit. But it's a full-time job for me to kind of see how deep I can go with it.
Is suffering necessary to a path of enlightenment?
No, I think it's necessary for not being into enlightenment. I think it's just the opposite.
What did the Buddha say about suffering? That enlightenment is transcending suffering. There is no suffering.
He said there is suffering, and he says it's caused by something you do, and that if you get over doing that thing, then the suffering goes away.
So that suffering is really manifesting in the physical world.
Suffering is something that is manifesting in your conscious experience.
Of the physical world, or just
emotional, physical, mental, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're suffering, it's that. Whether it's about what's going on or anything, it's your way of regarding, or your way of having a relationship with something. And there's an error in it that the Buddha found out. There was a little error that you make. It's actually a very subtle, simple thing, that if you got over that, then there wouldn't be that suffering. There would still be the actual conditions.
Mm-hmm.
There would still, but you wouldn't have the same relationship to those things that you have when you don't know that. And that thing is published as attachment and clinging to things, but I got it a little differently. It's the same thing, and that is that when something happens and you feel the impact of it, like somebody insults you, or you read the newspaper, and there's a kind of an impactful quality to that. If that impact is allowed to just go through you unimpeded, and if it's allowed to propagate through you, and if it's allowed to go wherever it's going to go in through you, so that you're not resisting it and not shutting it off, then it will go right through you like that.
And just dissipate?
And just dissipate. And they call it self-liberating. And then you don't suffer.
Is that something through meditation that you embrace, so you're aware of that?
Yeah,
and when it's happening? Because sometimes, in fact, something happened to me last week that I felt very insulted and sad.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it hit me until, I didn't really know what was happening until later.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of a sudden my whole day changed. Because it was like it kind of went somewhere and just stuck there or something.
Yeah, it sticks.
And then I was just aware of it, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just sticking to me. How can I get... But then I was so busy trying to get it off, I couldn't get it to just flow and dissipate out.
No. And I think that's the whole job of enlightenment is learning that. So it's something that's very simple, but we won't. We just won't. We don't want to experience that. You know, refusal. We just want to put it on hold. Later, maybe I'll get it. You know,
denial. Is that denial?
Denial, holding off, and I don't want to experience that. I had a plan. Today was going to be a nice day, so that wasn't nice. So I'm going to hold that off. I don't want to experience it, and that makes you vulnerable to suffering. That makes you suffer. Whereas if the stuff is allowed to just propagate and go as if you were an empty channel, just like a wire instead of a resistor, it would just go. It would just be life flowing, and the suffering would dissipate, because that's attachment. When you hold on to the state that you wished would have happened instead of what actually did happen, right? That's the attachment. The attachment is for the dream of what you wanted your life to be the next moment or the next day or whatever it is. See, it's having a preconceived idea of what the divine is going to offer you,